Just a fair warning. This is going to be the ultimate guide for anybody, new, returning, veteran, rookie. It doesn't matter. I am going to go over everything in the game in this video. Yes, I will be adding timestamps, and if you beat me to the timestamps, I will pin it to the top, but I will be adding timestamps, I promise. But this, my dear agents, has been a video that has been requested thousands of times in the last just few months. Every single stream I do, somebody's asking me questions about guides and what to do. So I'm going to put it all together in this one video, and hopefully I answer every single question all of you have. And if not, just let me know in the comment section below, and I will help you. All right, here we go. What's going on, YouTube? Kamikazevondoom here with another Division 2 video, so sit back, relax, grab that popcorn, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. But this will be the ultimate beginner's guide for all players, new, returning alike, it doesn't matter, for 2025. No, this isn't some old guide from last year that I'm just putting a new date on. This is for right now, Burden of Truth. Right before the DLC comes out, you're coming back to the game. What do you do? All right, so let's get into it. So starting off this guide, let's just jump into the map, the season, the settings, and things like that, because I know that either, you're new or, returning. The first thing you want to do is know what's been added to the game, what's new to the game, what has been changed in my settings, what has been changed in the season, because that's the foundation of your gaming experience. So let's go ahead and look at that really quick. So this is what the map looks like as of right now, Year 6, Season 3, and this, of course, is before the latest Brooklyn DLC. Now, the new things added to the map, we do have descent icons here, so you can see that there are two descent icons. Now, these are both entrance points to that game mode, and we'll talk about that game mode here in a second. We have the new castle settlement that was added about 2 years ago, actually. Wow, that's crazy. If we go up top, we have our new game modes. We have Countdown, we have Summit, and then, of course, Descent again, right there. You have Kinley College, the expeditions that are only open for a limited time. For our main locations, we have Coney Island. We have the expansion to New York City, Warlords of New York. We also have the Pentagon location down here. And then, of course, our two raids being Dark Hours, Iron Horse, and finally our Incursion, Paradise Lost. Now, these are all PvE game modes and incursions and raids. Everything that I just showed you right there is PvE only. The only PvP parts of the map, we have our 3 dark zones. So we have Dark Zone East over here. We have Dark Zone South here at the bottom. And we have Dark Zone West over here in the corner. Now, you would notice that Dark Zone West has, just the normal contaminated icon over there, over its map, and same with East. However, Dark Zone South has this red contaminated icon with a knife, right? Or a machete, whichever one. And this icon shows that it is invaded. So when you hover over this map, you can see in the right side of your screen, it says Invaded Dark Zone. Now what this means is this Dark Zone only has Black Tusk associated with it. That is the main difference. The only other difference, well, actually, there's 2 other differences. So it's only Black Tusk. The supply drops, you will only have 1 per supply drop, instead of the normal 3. And you will not have turrets near the checkpoints. So there's actually 3 things that are different between the invaded Dark Zone and the normal Dark Zone. Now, way back in the day, they called it the occupied Dark Zone and things like that, but they have changed the game so much since then. This is invaded, and it's because there are no turrets, it's Black Tusk, and you only get 1 supply drop instead of 3. Now, that one supply drop, though, will have all the bosses with it. So, where in the normal Dark Zones, either Dark Zone East and Dark Zone West, you have turrets at every checkpoint, so there's no real checkpoint camping. I mean, you can camp the turrets if you want. But the supply drops, there are now 3 instead of just the one, and each of them have one boss associated with it. Where in the Invaded, being Black Tusk, all of the bosses are on that one supply drop, making it even harder. It's a lot of fun. Also, yeah, for PvP, you would have Conflict. So, Conflict is actually right here at the base of Ops. And this is my favorite PvP mode because it's just pure PvP. And you can talk to this lady right here and go to Conflict. Now, the cool thing about Conflict is that anybody can play Conflict. Any level, anybody can play Conflict. The thing about it, though, is you want to wait till you're level 40 because everyone's on a level playing field. Now, yes, I did say anyone can play it. I mean, you can be a level 31 and play Conflict if you want, but you will be at a huge disadvantage against all the other level 40 players. So you would want to wait until you're level 40 to PvP, and you would just put a build together and you're good to go. The reason for that is in Conflict, the devs removed all shade levels, expertise, and all that. So as long as you're level 40 and have a build, I mean, you're good to go, really. Because everyone else is just using a normal build with normal stats just like you. Where if you were to go into the Dark Zone, in the Dark Zone there's shade levels, there's expertise, there's everything. Because, it's the Dark Zone. Why not? And with that, you would have people that would have builds, kind of like this. I mean, this is one of my Dark Zone builds, for example, where my St. Elmo's engine has a 28 expertise. And we'll talk about expertise here in a second. But what that means is my weapon is 28% higher than your standard level 40 weapon. So if you were to have this weapon and go into the Dark Zone, you would be at a 28% disadvantage compared to me. However, if you go into Conflict and play PvP, and you have a normal St. Elmo's engine, level 40, and I have this one, the Holy Moly edition, fully maxed out, we would be at the same level playing field because all of that is removed. So that's what I mean by, this PvP experience is for all players because it removes all of those extra advantages that the veteran players would have over new players. And it creates an even playing field where everyone can go in there, and as long as they have the build, you're good to go, right? Pretty cool. Now, another thing about Conflict, I mean, while we're here, is that you get certain outfits that are, well, hidden. So, for example, a lot of people ask, what are these pants and shoes that I wear? Because a lot of people don't know how to get them. And it's actually because they're PvP exclusive. You can get these from Dark Zone or Conflict, but it's from leveling up. You have to level up. So that's another incentive on the old PvP part of this game. Now, that was the PvP parts of the map, and I'll get more into the details for those game modes here in a second. But going back to this map, right? You do have the season. So you can see in the top left of your screen, it says Scout Progress. So Scouts is the new manhunt system. They don't call it your seasonal manhunt anymore. It used to be that, oh, we're doing our manhunt mission, having fun, what have you. Now it's a Scouts system where you are scouting out, you are trying to get information, and then eventually you will get the climax mission at the end of the season. So how this works is you pull up your manhunt, right? It still says manhunt, even though they're changing it to scouts. And you can see here that we have, we're on scout 4 out of 11. So for this season that we are currently in the game, we only have 11 weeks for this Manhunt. At the end of that 11 weeks, you will then have access to the final mission. It used to be called Manhunt Takeover Missions, and now they are starting to call it the Climax Mission for each season. So for this season, it is a Agent Kelso Climax Mission, and it will be unlocked in about 7 weeks, right? Now, the way these scouts go is you get intel, and then you have to complete 3 activities. So the intel, you can see in the top right, of this whole scout menu, it will tell you where to go. So for Scout 1, it says go to East Mall. The intel for Scout 2 says go to Southwest. The intel for Scout 3 says go to Downtown East. And then, of course, we have Scout 4 that opens up in 4 days. Now, what happens here is each of these activities are now riddles. You just have to crack the code or, solve the riddle, whatever it is, and then figure out what you need to complete to move on to the next activity. So you have 3 activities, and once you finish that 3rd activity, it will give you that weekly collectible. So if I open up the collectibles, here is the current season. We are under Burden of Truth, and like I said, we're only 3 weeks in. So every scout that you complete, you get one of these collectibles. Now, this is what progresses the story for the Division 2 right now, building up to the DLC. So to get the latest news or what have you about what's going on in the game, you want to complete your scouts and just listen to these audio recordings. Some of them are pretty good, and they're not always in order, so what I typically like to do is wait towards the later half of the season and then start listening to them all together, because they do tend to jump around. Jump around! But that is your Manhunt Scouts. So, looking back at that menu option, just for examples here, you can see these activities. They're pretty simple. It's, complete a mission, do 3 open world activities, and eliminate enemies with your Seeker Mines. Week 2, another mission, a bounty, and then a control point. Week 3, a bounty, take on Black Tusk enemies, and then a control point. They're pretty simple things here, but the whole premise of this is to get you to jump back into the game on a weekly basis and give you things to do, some rewards, and a new collectible every week, building up the story to that climax mission. Now, another thing to note here in your menu is you can go to your Legacy Manhunts. Now, the Legacy Manhunts, these are just your final missions, the climax missions, if you will. And it's for all of the, relevant seasons. So you have Jupiter, Hornet, Schaefer, Fei Lao, Captain Lewis, General Anderson, Stovepipe, Maria Singh, the Recruiter, Agent Kelso, and then you have the latest ones for year 6 being Keener, Parnell, and now finally Kelso again. So this leads us all the way into the DLC. Now, if you are just now joining the game, here's a tips and tricks. So this is going to be a good one, all right? So don't forget to hit the like. Come on, I'm helping you out. So Jupiter, Hornet, Schaefer, and Fei Lao all give you skills. You get extra skills, all right? Now, the cool thing about that is some of them are really good skills, whether it be the EMP sticky bomb or maybe one of those traps, shrapnel trap, healing trap, whatever. But my favorite is the EMP sticky bomb, and you can only get that through these Legacy Manhunts. So if you are new or returning, I would highly recommend doing these Legacy Manhunt missions, even if it's just once. Because another thing, the Recruiter, that's a hunter that you take on. The Agent Kelso, you take on another hunter, right? Keener, you're actually fighting with Keener. These are all really good missions that if you did not complete previously, you might be missing out on these skills and hunter masks because you do get those hunter masks. It's really cool. Oh, and Schaefer. There's a hidden hunter and Schaefer as well. There's a lot of really good things in this manhunt menu. So I highly recommend doing that and then catching up on your scouts, because what they're doing now with the scouts is at the climax mission, they are hiding a exotic. So for example, last season we had Theo Parnell way down here in Space Administration HQ. So right here, you can see I just toggled it to the manhunt mission, Theo Parnell. And it says there, as a reward, I would get an exotic chess piece. And that's what they're doing with these climax missions for the manhunt system, is that once you complete it, you would then get access to the latest exotic. And this is their way of making you play the game, essentially. They're making you do the climax missions because that's the only way of getting that exotic, and then it's not going to be added to the general loot or anything until you get that blueprint and everything. All right. Now that is your menu for that. Let me go ahead and pull up the normal menu again. So we're done with the manhunt. So looking at this normal menu, there's a few things to note here. All right. The first one, targeted loot. On consoles, it's just hit up on the D-pad. And you can see on the bottom left of your screen where it shows hide targeted loot and then show targeted loot. Hide targeted loot, show targeted loot. So every time you log in, you want to toggle this up and see what's the targeted loot for that day and what it is you would be wanting to farm for your build. And we'll talk about builds and putting those things together in a little bit. There's so much information to go over. But first, let's just understand our map, okay? So that's for the targeted loot. Next are bounties. If you just toggle over to bounties, each section will have their own bounties. Now, to spawn a bounty in these specific sections, you would have to complete tasks. For example, here in West Potomac Park, you have these public executions. If you complete a public execution, look, there's 4 of them right here. That's crazy. Completing each of these public executions will give you a bounty as a reward, and you can keep those bounties for later. Also, let me see if I can find one. They're handcuffs. The rescue hostage operations. I don't think I have one on my map. I'm looking. No, I don't. So you would also want to look for the handcuffs icon, because what those would do is also give you a bounty as a reward. But I typically just go for these public executions because they're always on the map. I mean, they're everywhere. You can see right here, public executions. And then for whatever section, you can just take these out and then stack up on your bounties and keep them for later. Now, next up, you have your shepherding system, okay? Your shepherding system. This is a call status system to help out other players. The shepherding ranks will reset every season. For example, you can see right here, I am at shepherding rank 7. And it says right below that the shepherding rank will reset in 12 weeks. That's when this season ends and the new DLC begins. Ooh. Now, the thing about the shepherding ranks is you have to get endorsed for them to work. So the way this works, right here at shepherding rank 7, it says that I need 7 endorsements to go to shepherding rank 8. I am currently at 1 out of 7. So I would need 6 more endorsements to get up to rank 8. The way the endorsements work is you have to answer the call and help somebody out. After certain XP or time allotted, it will give that agent a pop-up that says endorse this person. They have to endorse you in order for it to count. So the player can say, meh, nah, I'm good, and not endorse you. So this system, it's okay, but it's really like a trust system because you have to help out people that are not a part of your clan, and you cannot just join your friend to get endorsed. You have to use the call system, and you have to, answer the call to a random person. So this system, it's okay. I get asked about it a lot. There are some rewards that you get. There's a few patches and a backpack trophy, things like that to help out people. This is really just a good system for you to call for help or call for backup whenever you're playing solo and you need some help. So, for example, if I go to my map, you can see it says right now I cannot call for backup, and that's because I have my stuff on friends only, private, and all that. But if I put it on open group, and then if I were to go to on call status and go to all, what that would then do is that would give me a way to call for backup. So then I could log out, log back in, do something in the open world, call for backup, and then somebody can come help me out. Now, if it's a random person, you'll be able to endorse them and then help them with that shepherding rank. But for right now, let's turn the on-call status off, and let's turn my privacy back on. That way no one messes with us during this, this guide video. Going back to your map, you would the next thing would be your matchmaking option. So this is your matchmaking menu, and you can do a lot of cool stuff in here. So you could play the new Descent game mode, you could play the Summit game mode, you could join some random mission, you could, matchmake for the incursion or discovery raids. Not normal raids, but discovery. You can matchmake for countdown, open world stuff, random bounties, random activities, and then, of course, the Kinley College expeditions, whenever that's actually open. Now, for that shepherding rank system, you would do this one, random call for backup, where somebody's calling for help, they would then invite you, and then they can endorse you. Now, the way this works is you can go into each of these and click the actual, level of difficulty you want and have fun that way. However, for Descent, there's no level of difficulty. That will just put you right into Descent. Same with the Dark Zone. For the raids, it would only be discovery raids, and during those discovery raids, you will not be able to have access to the exotics. And we'll talk about the exotics here in a little bit. For the incursion, you actually can matchmake for the incursion because it's only for 4 people, and you can get the new exotic Ouroboros from the incursion that way. So that is a good option, but I would stress that you would need the builds, needed for the incursion, and you would probably need to know some mechanics or join a group that is willing to show you the mechanics in order to complete it, because it is not easy if you do not know what you're doing and you do not have the build. For Countdown, you can matchmake all the way up to Heroic. However, on Summit, you can go to Legendary. Also in Summit, on Legendary, you do have access to those Legendary raids. Legendary exotics, my bad. Now, let's see. Anything else with this part of the menu? No. Going to the other part of the menu, you have your projects. The projects have changed, just so you know. Going down here at the bottom, you do have 2 PvP projects you can complete now. They do switch between Dark Zone and Conflict. So this week, these are both Dark Zone based, and then that would mean that next week they might be Conflict based. You also have your weekly Descent project, which you get all of the Descent comms from defeating the Nemesis, and we'll talk about that game mode here in a second. But for those collectibles, it's another part of what would I want to classify that as? Like trying to stay up to date with the story, I guess, because there are 90 Descent comms. And you would have to catch up by defeating the Nemesis every week and getting however many comms they want to give you each week just to get all of these comms. Now, yes, there are content creators and people out there that already have all 90, like myself, so we can, share the story with you and all of that. But that's just really the main part of that project, is just to get those collectibles. And you can see under the rewards that they're really trying to get people to play it so they can catch up and learn more about the story. Going up here, the new weekly summit project now gives you an exotic cache just from completing 15 floors. Now, summit is 100 floors, and we'll talk about these game modes more here in just a second. But I do like how they're adding exotics and more XP to all of these projects. So if you're new or returning, these projects are key for getting those extra exotics and that extra XP. Now, the weekly shade requisition project is by far the easiest project in the game, and it gives you an exotic every week. It also gives you one shade level every week, and this is per character. You can do all of these projects on every character, and it will count. However, you need to be level 40, and for some of these projects, you do need to complete Warlords of New York. Now, this top project here, the Season Pass project, this one is only available if you have the Season Pass. You do not have to buy the big Season Pass bundle, but just from owning the Season Pass will give you access to this project, and every single day it changes. So all you have to do is one mission or one stronghold, what have you, and you get all of these rewards every single day. It is a big benefit having the seasonal pass, and a lot of people don't even do these projects. And it's sad because you also get bounties, drops, another shade level, and more. The next part of your map, you have your conflict map right here. You can just queue into conflict if you have your PvP. And then, of course, you have your legend for your map. Now, going into the other part of our menu, let's talk about the season. So the season has changed, okay? Just by clicking start, here is your menu. The season menu is right here, and this is completely different. So if you're new or returning, this is completely new. All right, so let me try to catch you up to speed on this. The seasonal pass is only available to people that purchase the seasonal pass. The free items is what everyone gets, but you can see it's only one or two items every, few levels. Where the rest of it you would, get from the seasonal pass, and then you'd get these ultimates from the seasonal pass bundle. Now, as far as the seasonal pass, you can get seasonal pass XP from pretty much anything now. And the devs are changing it to where you can get seasonal pass from pretty much everything as soon as they add that in next week's patch. So it's going to be pretty easy to get all of these levels. But to be honest, a lot of these rewards are locked behind the seasonal pass, so you're going to have to buy it. You can get the patches and some of these free items, no problem. But the exotics and the skins and all that, you definitely want to buy that seasonal pass. And it's a few dollars every few months, so it's not like a everyday expense. I think it's $10 for the normal version and then $30 for the big bundle, and that is at the start of every season. The next part of this is your seasonal journey. Now, the seasonal journey is something completely new, and this was just added last season. So this is new for a lot of people, and they just updated it again for this season. Now, I have not even talked about modifiers yet, because that is a part of the seasons as well. So let's get through the journey, and then we'll talk about the modifiers. So the seasonal journey, this is your seasonal progression for, the start of every season. This is how you're going to get your seasonal mask. Back in the day, your seasonal pass at level 100, remember, you used to get a mask. Not anymore. The mask is now hidden behind the journey. And you can see right here, under Journey Mission 7, under Completion Rewards, it gives you that snake apparel mask. Or helmet, whatever. So what this seasonal journey is is it's a way of getting you to play everything in the game and also use the modifiers that are new for that season. So the modifiers. Uh, this is going to be a long one, people. There's so much information. So the modifiers change every single season. It will completely change your gameplay. It's to help your gameplay. It's not to hurt you, it's to help you. It's to make you feel more powerful in different ways every single season. So maybe one season it's like a, sniper or a range based, and then this one it's more of like a eliminate enemies based for momentum. You want to build up your momentum. The more momentum you have, the stronger you are, and you can keep your momentum up, and then you can just be very strong the entire time. It's a really good modifier system this season. This is by far the best season to come back to because these modifiers make it even more fun than what the game typically is. So the way this works is you have three different tiers of modifiers for the agent, and then you have one modifier for the hostiles. Let's talk about the hostiles first. So the hostiles will be highlighted in red during this season if you have your modifiers active. Now, yes, you can just deactivate it and not even worry about your modifiers. But if you activate it, you'll get to enjoy all of the new power that has been given to you. But let's first talk about the hostile modifiers. So like I said, some of the hostiles might be highlighted red, and that means that they have this talent active. This is called the Frenzy talent. So Frenzy makes the enemy shoot faster, move quicker, and heal themselves automatically. That's forever. That's during the entire season. Because you are so powerful that what they're doing is they're giving the enemies a way of healing themselves to try to put some sort of difficulty into this season. Now, the way this works is it scales with your journey. So the further you progress through your seasonal journey, the more modifiers you get, which means the stronger you get, but then also they are increasing this talent to the enemies. So if you're done with your seasonal journey, that means these enemies, they're maxed out. And you can see right over here on the right side of your screen, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, and onwards. So that means that if you go into your seasonal journey, at the very start, you are at chapter 1 and 3. So that means your enemies have the first stage of Frenzied already active. The next one will not increase until you reach Journey Mission 4, and then Journey Mission 5, and onwards. So the further you go down your seasonal journey, the more powerful you get because you're getting all of these new modifiers, but the more powerful your enemy gets because it's scaling with your journey. Now let's see, so we're talking about the journey and then we're into the modifiers, right? So that's your hostile modifiers. Now that gets them up to 30% rate of fire, 30% movement speed, and then they get 10% armor and health back per second. Now, the only thing I want to note here is if they are frenzied, they come out of the spawn frenzied, which means that 30% movement speed, you'll see some of the enemies running out of their spawn 30% quicker than they normally would. And at first, you'll think it's a glitch or it's a bug or something. It's not. It's just them with this hostile modifier, and they're all juiced up trying to take you out. It's pretty crazy. Now, that's it for the hostile modifier. Pretty simple, right? It scales with the further you go in the season. Now, let's talk about our modifiers. How are we getting more powerful? It's all about us, right? Screw them. It's all about us. All right. So for us, it starts with the global modifier. Now, this is active the whole time. All you do is have your modifiers turned on, and this global modifier will be there for you. Now, this is called rogue momentum, and it builds up with any type of kill you get. It could be a skill kill, multi-kill, headshot kill, anything. Weapons, melee, don't matter, right? The more you are, going off, he's on fire, the more kills you get, the more momentum you get. It'll keep building up and building up and building up. It's like a meter, right? You want to keep feeding into it because the more you do, the more powerful you're going to get. The cool thing about this is that this will keep scaling and scaling, and you have opportunities of keeping it at max for the entire mission you're playing, for the entire stronghold, whatever it is you're doing. Just for example, you're at max momentum. You get 20% weapon and skill damage. You get 20% movement speed yourself, which is really fun. You're going to love the movement speed. Trust me. Then you get 20% reload speed and 25% rate of fire, all given to you just because you're playing the game. And if you're playing solo, that means you're getting all the kills yourself, which means you're going to get this momentum to be maxed out pretty quick because you're the one getting all the kills. Now, yes, if you're playing with other people, it's not going to count for everybody. It's whoever gets the kill, all right? That is key there. So for solo players, this is even better because you're getting stronger and stronger and stronger the more you're playing the game. But wait, there's more, because if you max out your momentum, all of those numbers I just gave you, the weapon damage, the skill damage, the movement speed, reload speed, rate of fire, that's nothing compared to your overcharge. So you get your skills overcharge. That is insanely strong. For example, just looking at my skill right here, I'm at a tier 1. Overcharge would increase my EMP blast by 150% and the duration by 100%. And that's for free, just from using your modifiers. Or, even better, if you use something like your scanner pulse, at tier 1, it's nothing, right? It just pulses the enemy, effect duration. But if you had a maxed out overcharged scanner pulse, it gives you the extra talent weakness exploit, where you and your allies get amplified damage to all pulsed enemies. So using something like rogue momentum in your modifiers, and just by playing the game and getting kills, you could turn something like the scanner pulse into a deadly skill against those enemies. Really cool. Now, another thing to note in the bottom right of your screen, it says blacklisted enemies. So enemies that have a little indicator over their head will give you more momentum. So you want to focus fire them. I'll show you what that looks like. I could do that right now. So if you go into the targeting range, you can actually see in the targeting range what a blacklisted enemy would look like. And all it is a little indicator over their head, and this would give you more of that momentum that I'm talking about. So let's see here. If we're just sitting here, right, and I were to pulse, let me pulse my enemy and use one of my fancy dancy modifiers here. Okay, so here's my pulse, right? I'm pulsing the enemy, and those indicators right there, those two indicators are blacklisted enemies. Just like this one right there, that's a blacklisted enemy indicator over their head. All right, same with the guy right in front of me. That's a blacklisted indicator that I'm pointing at. And what that does is if I take him out, it gives me momentum. It gives me a lot of momentum, okay? And that's what the bar right next to your ammo is building up. And you can see how I'm getting stronger. And it's just going to keep going and keep going. I mean, I'm already at half momentum right there. Half max. That's crazy. And that's only a few enemies that I just took out, and I'm nearly max right then and there. So that's how that works, okay? Into your modifiers. The next part is going to be your active modifiers. Now, all of these extra modifiers you have to unlock. So when you're just now new and returning to the game and you turn on your modifiers, you'll only have that global modifier giving you the momentum, and the enemies will have that frenzied talent. That's it. So for the active modifiers and passive modifiers, you actually have to unlock them. And the only way to unlock those modifiers is through your seasonal journey. Now, your seasonal journey for everybody will start at 1 and 3, because you can do 1 and 2 while you are completing 3. The reason why they do that is because 1 and 2 do not give you modifiers as a reward. You can see under the rewards claimed, it's just, caches and materials, nothing crazy. But at Journey Mission 3, you get the explosive amp, the critical recovery, critical momentum. All of those are passive modifiers that you can use for the rest of the season. The next one, Mission 4, gives you can see right there, Overdrive, active modifier. And that's when you can start using your active modifiers. Then 5, you get Vendetta. And then 6, you get Tactical Supremacy. These are all modifiers that once you unlock them, you get to use them for the rest of the season until the new modifiers come in. Now, what that does is it makes your rogue momentum even stronger. So all of those things I said you were getting, weapon damage, skill damage, movement speed, reload speed, rate of fire, your skills overcharged, then it gets even bigger because now you have active modifiers. Now these can change your playstyle a little bit. Now the first one is Overdrive. What this does is it maxes out your momentum instantly and gives you bonuses. So you get 30% weapon damage, skill damage, 30% rate of fire, and unlimited ammo. And that's for 10 seconds. However, then you get a penalty and there's a cooldown. But that's how they're getting you to be even stronger. The next one, my favorite for this season, is called Tactical Supremacy. So Tactical Supremacy will increase your passive modifiers and double their effects. Double. That's my favorite one this season. The reason for that is these passive modifiers are really, really strong. For example, you have critical recovery here where critical hits would heal your armor. You also have critical momentum here where critical hits will give you momentum. So you can literally just be shooting an enemy, get more momentum, and heal yourself all at the same time. And then you get more momentum as you kill that enemy, and then it builds up and builds up. So there's a lot of good combinations you can use in here and make your builds even stronger. Another example right here, Aggressive Drone, where that increases your drone damage, but it takes away some of the duration. But we all know that the duration is so high that doesn't matter. Just get that extra damage. You see what I'm saying? Anyways, that is the short and sweet version of your modifier breakdown, okay? Your modifiers will change every season. So what you want to do is you want to grind that seasonal journey. That way you get your modifiers and then you get to enjoy those for the rest of the season until you get the new batch of modifiers with your new seasonal journey. Also, we have priority objectives. This is something brand new that was added last season. So for a lot of you that are new or returning, you have never seen this before. What this does is it gives you 3 different activities that are random, and they give you random extra rewards. So if you like doing strongholds, like this one right here, you would get an extra 700,000 XP just from doing Roosevelt Island. And right now we do have that times 5 XP event going on, to where then I could get 3.5 million XP extra just from doing this, which is crazy. Now, another thing you can do is you can abandon that objective. So let's say I don't want to do that. I can abandon it just like that. Boom. Now, I can only do that once every hour. However, you do have right below these options is a reroll capacity. So if I don't like these three options, let's say this one's resources, exotic, and resources for my rewards. I don't want those. So let's re-roll it. Now I have exotic, resources, resources. I'm looking for XP. So let's re-roll it again. 2 exotics, and this one's E credits. Again, I don't want that either. Let's re-roll again. I did not get XP at all. So now I have to wait. I have no more re-roll capacity. And it says that I have to wait another 15 hours, and then I get all 3 of those re-rolls again. Pretty cool. Now, as far as the 3 options, it doesn't tell you what they are until you choose it. So for example, PvP, let's see what it is. It says that I have to open up any DZ chest by using a Dark Zone key. So I could go to any of the Dark Zones and just open up a chest, and I would get this completed and get that extra reward. Now this goes on for everything in the game. It'll be PvP, PvE, strongholds, missions, countdown, summit, descent, anything. So just remember, you only have 3 rerolls, but you can really capitalize on this. A lot of people use this to get exotics. Other people use this to get extra XP. Both of those are very smart ideas. So take advantage of this if you're new or returning. And then finally, for our seasonal menu, we have our new events timeline. Now, you will notice that this season, there are a lot of new things added to this game. First up, we just had a Shepherding XP event. Shepherding XP. I already talked about how calling for backup, endorsing them, you get the Shepherding ranks. They did just have a Shepherding rank XP. That way people could get, their Shepherding ranks up and try to get those rewards because they know a lot of people do not use that part of the game. As of right now, we have a times 5 XP event and Golden Bullet. Everybody loves Golden Bullet, and everybody loves times 5 XP. Now, if you open this up, it is for 1,000 levels. 1,000. So if you are new or returning, right now is the best time to get into the game. You could get 1,000 levels by the end of this week, 5 times faster than normal. Really, really good. Like, please take advantage of that. Not only that, but then you also have Golden Bullet, and you can use these together. Now, just note here that the Golden Bullet global event, all those stars will go to 0 after the event ends. So you would have to go to your global event vendor and use those stars. So let me just show you really quick what that looks like. So you're at the base of ops here, and there's also a location in Warlords of New York, but I'll just show you this one. So it's right here. It's called the Seasons Vendor. You open up this menu, and you can spend those global event stars that you are currently getting from the global event. Now, those will go away once the event ends. So just to show you again, you go to your seasonal menu, toggle over to the events timeline, open up Golden Bullet, and you would have to activate it. And then you could, finish these challenges, get global event stars that way, or you can just get XP and get global event stars after every level that you gain. Another thing here is you have a lot of rewards that you can claim during this global event, so don't forget to claim those as well. There's a lot going into the game right now. It is a lot. Now also note this times 5 XP is only for 1,000 levels. So once you complete the 1,000 levels, it's all done. Now, other things during this season's timeline that is new, right here, we have Clan XP event coming soon. We have a Dark Zone XP event coming soon. A ×3 XP event. A seasonal XP event, so that could help you max out on your seasonal pass. And then we have other global events that will be associated with it. Pretty cool. And that is everything with your seasonal menu. Now, looking at other parts of our menu here, we have our clan menu where you can pull up your clan. You have your social menu where you can change your privacy settings, talk to your friends. And then you have your apparel, the store, Ubisoft Connect, progression, and settings. Now, the Ubisoft Connect, make sure that your Ubisoft Connect profile is connected to this game. For any sort of Twitch drops, for any sort of compensation, for any sort of anything given to people and players, you want to make sure that you are connected to their Ubisoft profiles. That way you get all of those rewards and challenges and what have you. For the apparel and the store, things have changed. So let me show you. So this is the new apparel menu. This has changed completely from last year. What they did is they squeezed in your typical apparel menu, which was just these items. Then they added the outfits category, so now you can change your outfits. And they now have a backpack skins menu. Note here that the backpack menu for the skins is different from the old apparel menu. So look at this. If I bring up my backpack, I can go to the appearance slot and change the appearance, right? These are not the backpack skins. These are just appearances from different backpacks. The actual backpack skin is under the apparel menu, under backpacks, and this is where all the new backpacks are going to be. Just so you know. And yes, you can change the color of these just by clicking dye, and then you can change all of these backpacks and however they look. Pretty cool. A lot of customization now. Another one, you can change your chest piece. They now have different chest piece skins that they are coming out with. Pretty cool. New gloves. They're now coming out with glove skins. And then knee pads. They don't have many knee pads that are available right now, but they're getting more. Now what they also did was they threw down here your backpack trophies, your patches, your your emotes, and finally your skins. Lastly, we have our store and our caches. So the caches, this is the only way of getting textiles in the game. Now I'm going to talk about vendors here in a bit, right after the settings. And the vendors, there is one hidden vendor called Danny Weaver. Danny Weaver is associated with Cassie Mendoza, and the only way to get their locations is to find the snitch. Now the reason why I'm telling you this is because Danny Weaver sells exotics and he sells other caches every week. Now those are only purchasable from textiles. Textiles are only available through here, your apparel cache menu. The reason for that is textiles are only given to you if you get a duplicate item. For example, check this out. So I open up a cache and it reveals a weapon skin. I already have this weapon skin. So it says right there that textiles were rewarded instead. So now I have even more textiles. You use those textiles to go to Danny Weaver, and then you can buy those caches and get your exotics and all of that pretty much for free every week. Pretty cool. And then that leads us into the store. So the store is completely new for the game. They are adding stuff pretty much every week to the store, and a lot of it is pretty cool. Others, it's okay. I do like buy or bust videos just to show people what the new bundles are every week, and then we talk about it. Now, things to note here in the store is you can buy your seasonal pass. I already purchased it, so I can't pop it up for you, but there is a seasonal pass and a seasonal pass bundle. I believe I already told you that the seasonal pass is around like $10, and then the bundle is like 30. Now that bundle would give you like some extra premium credits, some extra rewards, outfits, things like that. Where your typical seasonal pass will just give you, the bare minimum. Now going over here to the bundle category, this is where you will now see all of the new outfits and bundles that are available in the store from the developers. They change this every week. So if you come in here, there might be a different outfit every week. Right now, they're redoing all of the rogue outfits because all of the rogue outfits just got a new backpack trophy associated with them. But not only that, they do have the St. Patrick's outfit right now in the store. And I'm sure they will do an April Fool's one here soon. They were talking about doing an Easter one and giving everyone a Easter bunny outfit. So we're going to have to stay tuned for that. So those are your bundles in the store. Then down here, your spotlighted items, what the devs want you to see. And then you have your premium credits, which if you go to your premium credits, every other season or so, they have one of these one-time offers. The one-time offer is the best bang for its buck out of anything you do here. Because typically $20 would give you $22.50, where here it's giving you $2,600 and a new mask. So that would be your best bet right there if you want premium credits, is to just wait for those one-time offers and then take advantage of that. Now also in here under the store menu, you can buy the expansion, you can buy the seasonal pass, the year 1 bundle, the level 30 boost, all of these things. So you can get access to all of this. Let's see here. What else in our menu? So that was apparel and store. Let's go to progression. So progression is a big one because of two areas. One being the collectibles. That way you can listen to the audio comms and all of that and, get familiar with the story. But the other one, the accommodations. So the accommodations, this is where you complete a certain task or whatever and you get a patch. Not only that, but the higher the accommodation level you are, you do get rewards as well. So going into these categories, some of these are super easy, 5 consecutive headshots, go into descent a few times, complete some summit things. And once you actually complete these and claim them, you will then get access to these patches. And that's where you get all of your patches. So then you go to your apparel menu, and then you can access all of these patches. I mean, look at this. I have hundreds of patches. It's crazy. It's a lot. Some of them are really, really cool. Now, another thing in your progression tab is your leaderboards. So this is where you could see your clan stats, your raid stats, your descent stats, how fast you've done an incursion, all of these things. Pretty cool. Your PvP stats, your speedrunning stats, all of it. Dark zone stats and whatnot. And then that, my dear agents, will leave us into the settings category. So settings. This is going to be the part of the video where you're wondering what kind of settings you should use and why. All right, so let's just go through each of these categories really quick. There's not a lot of settings to change. I'll just give you the ones that I would recommend you take a look at. So under the gameplay settings, I would turn off the on-call status unless you are actually trying to help people and do on-call stuff, because this will keep doing pop-ups on your screen. It'll say there's an agent nearby that needs your help. There's an agent asking for help. There's an agent over here that needs help. And it will keep doing that. That way it prompts you to go help them. So if you put this on none, you will see none of that. Okay. Next up, I have, let's see, scroll down here. Additional field of vision. Make sure these are maxed out. That way you can see, I mean, essentially further. You want these maxed out. Even if you're just like progressing it a little bit at a time, maybe you're starting at 0, right? So maybe start it at like 5 and then work your way up to 10, maybe 15, all the way up to 25. What this will do is it will help you react faster to things that are happening around you. Just know that. It'll definitely help you. Another thing is I turned the motion sickness mode off. I don't need that. Next up, we have the UI category. I do custom the UI. You are more than welcome to custom this however you want. You can move your map around. You can move your stats around, all of it. So that's one of the cool settings here under UI. Next, this is a big one. Floating combat text. This one's huge. A lot of people ask me about this setting. So let me just show you in real time what it looks like. That way you see exactly what to change. So you're shooting an enemy and you want your damage numbers to look different, right? Let me show you how to do that. So if I shoot an enemy, all my numbers are right there to the right of my screen. You can see all my numbers are right there. So every time I shoot an enemy, you can see all my damage numbers right there in a line, and it just shows you how much damage I'm doing. That's because I have the combat floating text. If you have the normal random sphere, check this out. You see how the numbers are different? You see how the numbers are smaller and they're random the way they're popping out. You see what I mean? That's like old Division 1 stuff. We don't do that here in Division 2. We change it to floating. That way the numbers are bigger and we know exactly how much damage we're doing. That way, if we need to change it, we can. Not only that, but say you have a bunch of enemies you're shooting. If I'm shooting all of these enemies, you can see all my damage numbers are staying to the right of my screen. If you have it on the other setting, all those numbers will just be jumbled up everywhere. So check this out. See? All the numbers are just, they're all over there and they're all jumbled up. I can't even read that. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I have it on floating for the combat text. Raid speedrun, only if you're doing raid speedruns would you want that on. It's really not that useful other than that. It's okay. Under audio setting, I actually do have the music down low just in case I get hit with one of them copy strikes. For the controls, I have my sensitivity maxed out. Highly recommend you do the same. If you're getting shot in the back, it's a lot more helpful to just turn around as fast as you can. Unlike if you had it on like say 0 and you're turning, hella slow, like a sloth or something. So I have both of these maxed out. But just like the additional field of vision, what I would do is just gradually progress this, maybe from 9 to 12 to 15, and then eventually get up to 20. Because you will have a big difference in your gameplay. You will react quicker, and I don't know, it makes it a little bit easier. Another thing is I do not have the controller vibration on. I think that it is distracting at best. So it's just not something that I would typically do. I have it off at all times. The next thing is dead zone for your sticks, for your analog, your thumbs. You want these at 0. The reason for that is you want to be able to react the fastest you possibly can. So what this does is it kills that space for your analog sticks. So wherever you're moving your thumb, it will move there instantly because you're moving your thumb. Where if you have your dead zone at, say, 10, it's going to take you longer to move your thumb and move, your character than it would if your dead zone's at 0. So just have it at 0. Now, another thing that this does, and it's quite embarrassing to some people, but if you have this at 0 and your controller is broken, your character might just start doing this. Why is he moving like that? You know what I mean? Or say your character just starts like moving slowly, like in this direction, it's because your controller has a broken stick. So what you would then have to do is you would then have to go back into controls and increase the dead zone until there's no stick drift, is what they call it. That's what she said, whatever. Stick drift. Another thing on here, let's go under graphics. I typically have my brightness up, my sharpening up, contrast up, no neutral lighting, none of that crap. For VoIP, I don't disable VoIP because not a lot of people talk on console. Well, at least not on Xbox. They do talk a lot on PlayStation, so if you want to turn it off, you're more than welcome to, but I do not because I do like talking to other people. But I will admit that if you are talking to other people, you need to look at these two settings right here. You need to have your volume boost and your threshold. So what I would typically do is have my threshold about 25 and have my boost about 25, 30. The reason for that is if I'm whispering, I don't want my mic to go off. If I'm coughing, if I'm wheezing, if I'm sniffly, if I'm, whatever, if my pets come in, if my kid comes in, if my wifey walks in, if I drop something, I don't want you to have to hear every single thing that's going on around me. So I have my threshold a little bit higher. That way, when I'm actually talking to the mic, it will then respond. Another thing is your threshold volume boost. You don't want this super high. If you have it way up here, whenever you talk, it's going to make you sound like a freaking megaphone. Like you're through a drive-through, getting, McDonald's or something. You want this lower because you don't want your volume to be boosted, really. So you could have this at 25 or 30 and it'll just be just fine. Talk to me like we're in the same room. You don't need to yell at me with a freaking megaphone. You know what I'm saying? So it'll definitely help you out there. Next up, you have your accessibility. I do high contrast and I do larger text. It's just easier. I also do the on-screen keyboard. You'll see that a lot in my gameplay where I'll tell people GGs or I'll talk to them through that. The on-screen keyboard only works if you're in a group. And if you're in a group, just hit down on your D-pad and you can talk to people through the on-screen keyboard. It's pretty cool. Other things on here, I do not do the colorblind setting. I know there's a lot of people that do that. I do not. And that's actually pretty much it, people, for the settings. Not bad. Not bad at all. All right, now let's talk about the vendors, and then we can, start moving into the good, fun stuff of the game. All right? So the vendors. Your vendors change every single week. You have 3 vendors at the base of ops. You have a vendor at every single one of your settlements. And you have vendors at all of your Dark Zone entrances. So there are a lot of vendors that are here. You also have a vendor at your castle settlement, theater settlement, and then of course you have those hidden vendors. Now I keep saying hidden vendors. The reason why I keep saying that is because they are wandering vendors that have hidden locations. The only way to see these locations is you have to find a snitch. So finding the snitch, he will snitch them out and give you their locations. So if I find a snitch, let me just go to my typical location for the snitch. Yep, there he is right there. So if you find the snitch, he is located in over a dozen different locations throughout the open world, and he has question marks over his head. So when you go to the snitch, 2 things. You get a bounty. It says right here, accept bounty. So not only do you get a bounty, but it also shows you their locations. So look at the top of your screen and watch this.
Off you go.
You see it says gun runner location revealed. The gun runner is Cassie Mendoza. Then you can pick up your bounty. And if you look on your screen, you will then have an open bounty. Go to the bounty details and you can actually click abort and save that for later. But the reason why I showed you that is because of these icons right here. These are the locations of those 2 vendors. So you have Danny Weaver and you have Cassie Mendoza. These vendors open and close every other day. So you can see in the top left of your screen, it says this vendor is closed. Opens up in another day. It says 23 and a half hours. Cassie Mendoza sells items that are, some of them are different, but they are only purchasable with normal credits. Where Danny Weaver will sell caches, and it's only with textiles. So those are your vendors, okay? So those vendors will change every week, and that's why I do a weekly vendor reset video for all of those vendors, because it is quite a lot. After the vendors, let's talk about crafting, because now we're getting into the builds and the exotics and the weapons and all that crap. Because before you get into the game modes, you probably should have a build, right? Now, a big part of your build is crafting and tinkering and all of that. So let's talk about that system. So over here at your base of ops, you have Anaya and you have Emma. Anaya does your crafting, where Emma does your tinkering. But you can use the tinkering station, which used to be called the recalibration station. You can use tinkering on the go. What do I mean by that? Well, they added this a few seasons ago, where I can be anywhere in the game, okay? And if I open up my menu and open up anything like this, I can go to the tinkering station right there. Boom, right there. And you can actually see in the bottom right of your screen, there is an option that says Tinkering Station. It's right between Mod and Inspect Character. So by clicking on Tinkering Station, you have 3 different options here: Library, Tinkering, and Expertise. You can do this anywhere in the game as long as you are not in combat. If you're in combat, it's not going to let you do this. It will be blocked out. Now, those 3 categories are the exact same at the tinkering station with Emma. So if we come back over here, you can see it's the exact same menu. So I just showed you how to access it in the open world, or you can just come back over here and use it like normal. Now, 3 categories. You want to worry about the library first. This is your first thing you want to worry about in the game. If you are new or returning, you want to max out your library. Period. But the reason you want to focus on the library first is because you can't change your items and max them out or change the talents or anything like that until you actually have all of these in your library. For example, if I did not have 15% weapon damage on my mask, I would not then be able to change any of my masks to max weapon damage. So a good way of maxing this out, there's actually 2 ways. So for example, if you have shotguns and you're just really trying to get that one talent, you can easily just come over here to the crafting station and just craft shotguns right here and just max it out. You know, you'll find the talent eventually, and you'll find all the attributes you need. The problem is finding maxed attributes, because when you have them max, you never have to worry about it again, and then you can see all of these categories that are, gold. It means I have everything already maxed out and available. That way, if I have any of those items and I want to change it, I can change it to whatever I want, whenever I want. However, for right here, you can see under pistols, I do not have all of the talents. So if I had a pistol and I wanted to change it to pressure point, I can't, because I do not have that available from my library. Pretty big. This entire category needs to be maxed out as soon as possible. So the first way of doing that I showed you was crafting, right? You could just craft whichever one of these categories over and over and over and just use all of those and donate them. What I would also do is you can farm for them. So for example, maybe you're looking to max out your holsters, right? You could go and do targeted loot for holsters. So where would holsters be right now? Right here. So holsters are under Tidal Basin. So then I could run Tidal Basin a few times and get some holsters, and then I could come back and donate them into that library. Another way is through those two game modes, Summit and Countdown. Summit and Countdown have this menu where you can change it to whatever targeted loot you want from any category you want. And that is for both Summit and for Countdown. Now, if you change it on one, it'll change it for all of them. You can see. So if I changed it to assault rifles, it would then be assault rifles. See? Now, that is your two ways of completing your library as fast as possible. You want to do that before you go to the next category, which is tinkering. So tinkering looks different here than it does if you do it per item. What do I mean by that? Well, if you click on tinkering, it will then pull up the categories and then it'll pull up these items. I don't do it that way. Here's how I do it, and this is a really fast way of doing it. So let's say I got, I don't know, a new item, right? Let's say I got a new chess piece. Right. Let's just use this one for example. So I got a new China Light chess piece. I equip it and then I hit select. And look at that. It automatically brings up the item and it automatically shows me what I can optimize and or recalibrate. So then I could, if I didn't have anything there, I could change the talent, I could change these attributes, and then I could optimize them. Okay? And that's just by highlighting the item. Let's see if I can do that for a weapon. So a typical weapon, let's see, just the Slayer. So I click on the Slayer, then I click select, and then it brings up the Slayer. See? And then I can change this attribute to anything I want right then and there. Now these replacements, all of these options are only available because I have that library maxed out. So that's why that is so important, okay? Now the third category is probably the least favorite out of everybody's, and that is expertise. So going back over here, we have the expertise category. Now expertise, like I showed you earlier, is how you could get your weapon up to 28% higher than a normal person's weapon. And that is because of my expertise level. So there are two things associated with this. The first is becoming fully proficient, and the next is expertise upgrading it. How that works is you have to become proficient in that item, and that will increase your overall expertise level. So let's say I'm an expert, right? If I'm an expert with just knives, then I would only be an expert with knives. My expertise level wouldn't be that high, right? Just saying, just overall. But if I was an expertise with knives and weapon and hand-to-hand combat and hardcore parkour and all this other stuff, obviously my overall expert level would be higher, right? In real life, right? Same thing applies here. If you are fully proficient in all your masks, all your chest pieces, all your backpacks, everything, if you're fully proficient in all your skills and all your brand sets and gear sets, it will increase your overall expertise level for your character because it shows that you're an expert in all of those things. You're fully proficient. I'm fully proficient in shotguns. Well, I'm fully proficient in whatever. We all get it. But the thing is that there are 417 different items in the game that you have to be fully proficient in to get this max level that I'm showing you. And you can see right under that expertise level 28, 50 out of 90, that is your progress to go to 29. Now the 50 out of 90, that is how many more proficient levels you need. So you need 40 more proficient levels to then reach the next expertise level. Now I cannot go any further because right underneath that you can see it says proficient 417 out of 417. That means I have nothing else I can be proficient in, and this is the max level I can currently be. Now, you cannot make your items 28 and a half. You have to wait until it goes to 29 and then make it 29. The way that the expertise works, and I can show you that right here and right now, is you get an item that is fully proficient. All right. So, for example, right here, refactor mask. So, this refactor mask is fully proficient. And you can see right underneath where it says skill tier, it says expertise, fully proficient. Now, right underneath that, it says no upgrades are active. Now, just above that, I have another refactor mask where it says expertise 12. And then it says plus 12% armor. Now, this one where it says no upgrades available, if I were to click tinkering, right, this is just to recalibrate it and optimize it. However, if I go to expertise upgrade it, I could then go to expertise, go down to that refactor, right here, refactor. It shows me all of the ones that are on my character that I can expertise upgrade. And then I could just go right here and expertise upgrade it. Now it shows you the cost, and it shows you that you would get 1% armor. Now that 1% armor is different depending on what gear items you have. For example, if I show you my chest piece, you can see in the top right of your screen, it says everyday carrier, high end, and right underneath that, it says 158,000 armor. That's the percent of armor that it is increasing. So whenever you expertise upgrade, it would be plus 1% armor of that armor number. So on chess pieces, it's 158. And you can see on all chess pieces, it's all 158k for that armor number there in the top right of your screen. If I go to gloves, in the top right of your screen, it shows Olympic gloves high end, and then it shows 80k armor. And then the plus 1% armor that I would get from an expertise upgrade would be 1% of that 80k. If I go down to knee pads, you can see in the top right of your screen it shows Emperor's Guard knee pads high end, and then right underneath that it says 99k armor. So again, expertise, this one is plus 19, and that plus 19% is 19% of that 99k armor. So then it increases the armor value of each item. Now for skills, it's a little different. So for each skill, your expertise upgrades will upgrade a different part of that skill. So you can see on the right side of your screen, it shows tier 2 skill. Underneath that, it says expertise 22, where it's increasing my EMP blast by 22%. So that would be 22% of the baseline EMP blast. Over on traps, you can see the expertise increases the damage. On the decoy, it increases the threat. On the pulse, it's increasing the duration. Firefly, it's increasing the blind effect duration. On the chem launcher, it's increasing the damage. On the hive, the damage. On the turret, damage. And you can just see where on different skills, it would change different attributes. So the expertise upgrade on, say, the, what would be like the shield? It would be active regeneration. Now, if I were to change the Firefly, you could see that the expertise upgrade for the blind effect would increase the blind effect duration. The expertise on the Demolisher would increase the damage, and same with the damage on the Burster. So it'd be different for whatever skill you're using. So for the Reinforcer chem, it would increase the duration of the chem, or the ensnare health of a riot foam. But these expertise upgrades are very important in PvE and in the end game because it makes you that much more powerful. So if you were max expertise with max watch level and modifiers, I mean, you're getting some crazy high numbers. And that's why a lot of people are able to just walk through heroic content and into legendary. Now, for the weapons, it's always weapon damage. No matter what. No matter what weapon you increase the expertise, it will forever increase the weapon damage. So, my number one tip and trick for this, for your expertise, is to focus on your weapons and then focus on your skills. You do not need extra armor like that. It doesn't help you that much, but the extra weapon damage and the extra skill damage is greatly needed. And that is everything with the settings under the expertise. Pretty cool, right? Now, going to the crafting station, this is going to be some more information. Now, first with Anaya, you have to make sure you buy all of the blueprints from Anaya. Her stock will reset every week, and she will sell random blueprints and things like that for you. It does restock every week. However, if you buy everything that she has, it's not going to restock anymore, just like what I'm showing you right here. Another thing with Anaya is you can share blueprints and you can share materials from one character to another by purchasing that through this vendor right here.
I'll catch you later.
Now, the crafting station itself, there are quite a number of things here. So first up, you have your mods. Whenever you do, control points, whenever you do certain side missions, things like that, you might get different weapon attachments. If you do that, you have to come over to the crafting station and actually craft them. Make sure you have a check mark next to all of your attachments, because a lot of people forget that if you unlock these, you actually have to craft them to get them on your character. Other things to note here, you can get improvised gear through your crafting bench. So if you go to the other category, you can see here improvised. The special thing about improvised gear is that it gives you a mod slot for that item. It does not give you a brand set or any sort of bonus, but it gives you a mod slot for that item. And that's very, very important, because for certain builds, you could double, triple, quadruple down on certain mods that you would typically not worry about with a normal build. So these improvised items are pretty unique, and the only way of getting them is through your crafting bench. Now, for example, I might have one on me. No, I do not. So if I go to my stash, I'll show you really quick. Improvised, boop, ba-doop, ba-doo, right there, boom. So here's a good example. I have double crit on a holster with another crit mod. And then that way I can just double and triple down on crit on the one item. Now, the crafting bench, what else you can do is actually craft your named items. So there's a lot of named items that you can craft. I mean, here's the Hollow Man, Visionario, Punch Drunk. There's a lot of items that you can craft that are named. The way of doing that, there are two ways of getting your named item blueprints. The first one, control points. You can do level 3 or level 4 control points, right, by turning them from red to green. If they are level 3 or level 4, which means challenging or heroic, you can get a blueprint as a reward. Now, you cannot get every single blueprint in the game, but you can get quite a number of them by using those control points. They'll drop them as a reward over and over and over. And there are a lot of control points you can take over, which means there are numerous blueprints that you have an opportunity of getting just by taking over those control points. Now, the other way is through Descent. So Descent gives you a cache called Reconstructed. So here's Descent, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But the Descent vendor right here gives you a reconstructed cache if you have enough of the Descent credits. What this does is it gives you a random named item, but then it also gives you a random named item blueprint. And that is big for crafting your builds. I think that crafting your builds is just as important as farming for your builds, because if you have the blueprints, you can craft them and already have the build you want, and then later on optimize it. Where if you're farming for the build, you might not get all the items you need, and then you're just sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. So, in my opinion, crafting a lot of your builds is the way to go, and it's actually pretty easy once you get all your blueprints. So, control points and descent, reconstructed caches, those will give you those named item blueprints. And then you can just craft those named item blueprints. Now, what's in my mailbox? What? What is this? Oh, I just got an exotic and 2 named item caches. Oh, that's from my my Twitch drops the other day. Nice. So the Twitch drops just worked. Very good. Very good. Thank you, Division, for doing that live during my during my beginner's guide. Very good. Okay. So crafting, you know how to get those blueprints, all of that jazz. Now there are hidden blueprints, by the way, and they are through your specializations. So if you go to your specializations, you can see in the bottom right, there's an option that says View Field Research. If you click on View Field Research, it'll bring up these, research categories and stages. What you do is you get exclusive outfits, but you also get blueprints. So right here, here's the Slepner for the gunner. If you go to the firewall, this would give you the ammo dump blueprint. If you go to the technician, it would give you the send-off blueprint. And then you can see where just by doing those field research stages, you're able to get different outfits, different skins, different emotes, and those blueprints. So doing all of that would make it very easy for you to craft whatever build you want, but not the exotics, obviously. You cannot craft an exotic. You can only change an exotic. Now, for that, it's different between weapons and gear items. Because gear items, it keeps the attributes what they are, and it just randomly changes the values. Where for the weapons, if you were to recalibrate them or reconfigure them through the crafting station, it would change the bottom attribute. So it's very dangerous to do that in the crafting station with your exotic weapons, because if you had something like damage to targets at a cover and then you change it to like swap speed, it's going to be quite a while before you get it back to what you wanted. Now, just to show you what that looks like, if I go to the crafting station, I go to the weapons, I can scroll all the way down to the exotics, and it's called reconfigure. All right. So if you reconfigure your exotic, it would take your exotic and it would change that bottom attribute, and it would change all your other attributes and just randomly, give you different values. Now, it will not take away your expertise. So if you do reconfigure your exotic after years or whatever, it's fine. You'll still keep that expertise. You're good to go. Next up, let's see here. So we went over that. Now I think it's time to start talking about exotics and builds. Because before we get into the game modes and all that and farming, we need to talk about builds and how builds work, right? So with that, we have to start with exotics, in my opinion. Because exotics are very crucial for your build. Now, what do I mean by that? Your exotics are crucial. Well, you can only use one exotic weapon and one exotic gear item per build. So the way I typically use my builds and put my builds together is I start with, well, what exotic would I want to use? And then after that, I would typically put my build and, work around that. What weapon am I using? What exotic gear item am I using? All right, now let's put a set, to help accent that. So with that, I can show you a few different build ideas here where I'm putting a build together and I'm like, well, if I want a skill build, right? Maybe I want to use a status effects build. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is, well, the Vile Mask is a perfect status effects build exotic. So I would start with the Vile Mask, knowing that I want more status effects. I could then move to whatever talent I want, and then move into whatever set I want to use along with it. Not only that, but then you would think, well, if I'm using a skill build, what kind of weapon would I go for? And then you'd have something like, maybe the capacitor, where as you're shooting your weapon, you get more skill damage. Well, I'm using a skill build with skill tiers, and it just so happens that the more skill tiers I get, the more weapon damage I get on this weapon as well. So it makes it, pretty easy to think, okay, well, if I want this type of build, these are the exotics I want to go for, and then go for those first. And that would go into like your farming methods and your game modes. Now, as far as the exotics to look for right now, it's kind of hard to say, but we know that the most popular one right now would be the St. Elmo's engine, the capacitor. Those are by far the two most popular throughout the fan base. And in fact, they just said that after 6 years of the Division 2, the St. Elmo's engine, along with the Scorpio, are the two most used weapons ever. So these are your ones you really want to go for. And the reason for that is they're assault rifles. Assault rifles give you that mid to long range, survivability aspect to it while, dealing a lot of damage. And then if someone, jumps up on you, then you'd switch over to your secondary or sidearm and do a little close quarters combat. Now back to the exotics, let me just show you some examples of exotics that I am using right now. So first up, we have the Pestilence. The Pestilence is a perfect exotic to use right now. It has that damage over time. It got an RPM buff. It got a damage buff, and it got a reload speed buff. This thing is by far one of the best exotics to use right now. Exotics. The capacitor. It's one of the best weapons to use right now because it's actually the only assault rifle that can hold damage to armor and damage to targets out of cover. And you can see that right there on the right side of your screen where I have both of those attributes on this exotic, where most of these other ARs are just going to hold health damage. So the capacitor is really big on that. Not only does it have that going for it, but also the talent giving it more skill damage and more weapon damage. It's a big player. The Vile Mask is a really important mask to use right now, along with the Catharsis and the Coyotes. All three of these are very important to use right now in the game, and I would highly recommend going for them. All of these exotics I'm about to show you just from these build loadouts, I would highly recommend you put together. For this one, I have the Coyotes mask. You can get that through Countdown, Summit, anything with mask. I'm going to try to stay away from the exclusives right now. For this build, I have the St. Elmo's engine. Like I said, that's one of the most fan-favorited weapons ever made. So pick that one up as soon as you can. And then also the Catharsis mask. You can get this one through any targeted loot. Just farm for mask. But the St. Elmo's engine, what makes this one so special is that it shocks your enemy. It builds up shock ammo. Really, really important for PvE and PvP because that will really turn the tides during an encounter when you're shocking your enemy. And then the Catharsis actually got a big buff this last year. The weapon damage that it builds up went from 30% to 45%, and it still heals you and takes away status effects. It's a really strong mask. Highly recommend going for it. On this build, the exotic, I would say look for BTSU gloves. This is perfect for your healing builds, perfect for support builds, because not only does it give you those attributes, healing with the repair skills, but also skill haste, but the talent, transference, the overclock. What this does is every time you destroy your hive, it overcharges, and it's perfect for those support builds, and especially resetting your teammates' skills and things like that. The next build, let's see. Here's hold on, wouldn't let me put that one on.
So we have the Memento. The Memento is one of the best exotics in the game. Highly recommend getting that one along with the Ninja Bike. Both of these are really sought after exotics because they both give you insane amounts of bonuses. The Memento gives you a short term and long term bonus, but you have to pick up trophies as you kill enemies. It's really good for solo players, not so much for in group play because you have to get the kills to get the trophies. Where the Ninja Bike, it's active all the time. So it helps you out no matter what situation, just put it on your build, plug and play.
And well, these are just reasons why I'm showing you the exotics. So just a quick little rundown which ones. So St. Elmo's, Capacitor, Lady Death, Iron Lung, Pestilence, Scorpio. So that's 6 weapons. Catharsis, Coyotes, Vial, 3 masks, Memento, Ninja Bike, 2 backpacks, BTSU gloves, and I would go for the Ridgeway's Pride chest piece. I believe I have that one in my stash. Give me a second. And there it is right there, Ridgeway's Pride chest piece. So those exotics, it's right around 10 or 11 exotics, bare minimum. And those exotics can be found anywhere you get exotics. You can get them from exotic caches, you can get them from any enemy drop, anything like that. The reason why I pointed out those exotics specifically is because they're easy to obtain. Then you get your build together and you can go to whatever game mode you want, or whatever raid or whatever difficulty you want, right? So with builds, let me just try to do like a quick little build breakdown. So each build, you have your different categories, right? So you have your specialization, which does not really make or break your build that much. You have your weapons, which are very important. Now, I already told you and highlighted some exotic weapons you could go for, have some fun. And then you can craft or farm for whatever other weapon that you prefer. Next would actually be the build. The build, it's the 6 items that you have associated with your weapon and your specialization and your skills that actually will make or break the entire experience. What do I mean by that? Well, you could be super survivability based, where you don't really want to ever die, but you're not really doing that much damage. You could be just pure damage and DPS based, but then your survivability is going to be really low. Or you could even be like a skill build where you're not tanky, you're not doing a lot of damage, but your skills are doing it all for you. I mean, there's different play styles for everybody. Or you can mix it up and have a little bit of all. Now, for example here, this is a all red build, so this is a all damage build. Right below that, I have a all yellow build, and this is a skill build. And let's see if I have an all blue. And then here's an all blue build where all of these are all blue. Now, they're all 3 completely different playstyles, and that's the glorious part of build making. Now, what I would focus on, again, for your builds, first up would be the exotic. So what kind of exotic would you want to use? Then you would go at what kind of talents do you want to use? The talents on your build are typically only located on your chest piece and backpack, unless it's an exotic. Now, yes, your gear sets have talents associated with them, and yes, some of your, bonuses could also play a big part. But when it comes to the actual build making process, your first step, what exotic are you going to use? Your next step, what kind of talents do you want to use? That way, you put the talents on your backpack and your chest piece, and you can figure out what kind of brand set you want to use with that talent, or whatever gear set you need to use to unlock that talent. So at that point, you would already have the exotic weapon, you would already have 2 of your 6 gear items for your build, because you would figure out what kind of talents you want to use. and then you'd figure out the rest, right? So, what kind of brand sets, what kind of gear sets, and what combinations to use with them. Now, for example, this is a pestilence damage build. The reason why I'm using damage with the pestilence is because this exotic weapon has a talent that deals weapon damage. So, based off of how much weapon damage you have, it dictates on how powerful this talent can be. So, I tried to put together as much damage as I possibly could. So, with that being said, I first was thinking about my talents. Well, damage based talents, you would typically either go for talents that increase your weapon damage or talents that amplify your weapon damage. So, for example, this backpack has the talent Vigilance. Now, that increases my weapon damage. See what I mean? And my chest piece comes with the talent Perfect Glass Cannon, which would then amplify my damage. Both of those would help out my exotic. And that's what you call, build synergy. You're getting the build to work together in this really nice structure to get the most out of it. So after I found out what talents I had, I was like, okay, well, what brand sets or gear sets? So looking at the backpack, I chose Walker Harris because the Walker Harris brand set bonuses give me weapon damage and damage to armor. Both of those increase my weapon damage. So then that would help out my exotic. And then you'd look for other things. So this one gives you damage to armor, this one damage to targets at a cover, this one health damage. And the next thing you know, you have a build with everything you need for that exotic, giving you the best, outcome possible for that exotic. And that's, the same kind of logic you would do for any of these. So for a skill build, a good skill build exotic weapon would be the capacitor. So boom shakalaka, I got that. Then I wanted to go with like status effects. Well, I know that the Vial Mask gives me status effects, damage over time debuff for that talent. So the Vial Mask is a shoe-in right there. So boom, I already have those two items. Then it's like, well, what kind of status effect would I like to use? Well, I'm choosing the Burn Sticky Bomb. So the Burn Sticky Bomb goes perfect with the Flamethrower specialization because that increases my burn duration. And then I would want to spread that burn. So then I chose Creeping Death on the backpack to spread that status. And then I went with Electrique because it gives you status effects for that brand set bonus. Not only that, but this gear set right here is called Eclipse Protocol, which also works with status effects. And then you can see the build synergy. It's all status effects. It works with the exotics. It works with the skills. The burn goes with the specialization. Bada bing, bada boom, right? Then you could go into your armor builds, right? So let's go with a straight up armor build. There we go. As high as we could possibly go. Here's 2.4 million armor. Now, the way to do that, I mean, typically you'd see, 800,000 armor, something pretty low. This one has 2.4 million armor. Holy moly, how did he do it? Well, first up, I went with my exotic. My exotic is the Provocateur, and this gives you armor as a core attribute, just right off the rip. And I was like, well, if I get damage resistance as that talent, maybe if I get as tanky as possible, I could never die, right? So I was like, well, what could be my highest survivability to make that happen? So I thought to myself, well, what would be a good backpack talent? Adrenaline Rush. Adrenaline Rush gives me bonus armor on top of my armor. Not only that, but it scales depending on how much armor you have. So because I have 2.4 million armor, the 20% bonus armor, that's 20% of my base armor. So the more base armor I have, the more bonus armor I get. See what I'm doing there? Not only that, but this is on a Usina Getica brand set, and the one piece bonus gives me total armor. So then I'm increasing that baseline armor even further, which would then increase my bonus armor. So that's just the two pieces right there. And then I was like, well, what else would increase my armor overall? Well, 1-piece Heliguard gives me 5% total armor. So there's that one. And 3-piece Aegis gives you 15% total armor. So I get 15% from the gear set items, 5% from each of my high-end items, and then I get damage resistance and bonus armor on top of all that other armor. And next thing you know, you're 2.4 million armor with damage resistance and bonus armor coming in. Not only that, but then you could use something like the Technician, which gives you a skill tier. And if you really wanted to, if you're nasty, you could switch this over to a Defender drone. Yeah, a Defender drone. And with the right mod, look at that. Now we're at 30% damage reduction on top of the damage resistance that we're getting and all of the armor and bonus armor. See? And just like that, I showed you a damage build, a skill build, and an armor build. Just like that. So that's how I would do my build setup, right? You would go for your exotics, build around that, try to figure out what kind of talents, build around that, and then go for whatever gear set, brand sets you want to go on top of that. Okay? Very simple, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Now, you want to farm for those builds, right? That's the big thing. Farming. What am I going to do about farming, Kamikaze? Come on, bro. Farming. You want to talk farming? All right, let's talk farming. So the first thing with farming is targeted loot, right? That's how you're going to find the items you want in the quickest manner possible. Not only that, but the fastest way of doing this is countdown or summit. Now, these are two completely different ways of farming, but they both have similar results. So countdown, you can change your targeted loot, and playing countdown, you're with 8 players, and you're doing a lot of objectives and hunters and things like that. You're getting a lot of kills and a lot of loot, and it's all instant. And it all goes towards your targeted loot. A lot of loot. It's amazing. The number one place I would say farm for gear is right here, countdown. Not only that, but if you pull up the countdown menu, I would tell you to do it on challenging. That is the most popular difficulty for this game mode, and you are guaranteed to find people. I mean, just to show you really quick, just watch how fast. Okay, I'll show you how quick this is. So if I were to do matchmake, countdown, challenging, watch this. 1, 2, 3. It took 3 seconds. All right? It took that long. You see what I mean? So that's how quick it would take to just do a countdown, challenging, and change your targeted loot and just get your gear that way. That's the number one way of doing that, okay? The other way is summit. But to show you how this one works, I actually have to fast travel over here and show you. And this is kind of segueing into the game mode. So I'm talking about how to farm for gear, and then we're going to talk about these game modes.
We need you to secure a
Yeah, we might as well
skyscraper.
do both at
This may
once,
take a
right?
while.
All right.
Hope you cleared your schedule.
So I talked about countdown, and I have a countdown 2025 guide video that is already on my channel. So you can just type in my name and type in countdown 2025, and you'll see that. And same with this game mode, Summit. In fact, I have one for Descent as well. So I'm going to fly through the game mode part of this video and just kind of hyper focus on the farming part, okay? Now, Summit, what's cool about this is you can change your difficulty and your directives. As I just said that, I just realized that we have not talked about directives yet. And, well, there's a reason for that. The reason is we haven't talked about farming or increasing your difficulty or anything because we've been focusing about all of the bare minimums first, like, the foundational stuff. What to look for, what settings, what builds, what to look for, exotics, what to look for. So now that we're talking about the game modes and farming, we do have to break down directives. So directives play a big, big role. Now, the thing about changing your difficulty, right? You can do normal all the way up to legendary. Cool, cool, cool. Cool, 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 right? All that does is it increases your enemies, but it also increases your drop quality for your loot. So whatever loot you get on normal, you would get the same amount of loot on legendary, but it would be better quality loot. So maybe on normal, you would get like a 5% weapon damage roll. Maybe on legendary, you would get a maxed out 15% weapon damage roll. It would still be the same drop, but it would be better quality based off of your difficulty. Now, the thing about that is it only really applies to challenging, heroic, and legendary. The developers have said that they have increased the loot quality on challenging, heroic, and legendary. Normal and hard, you're pretty much getting the same stuff. Hard is just basically the enemies are just a little bit harder, nothing too crazy. Now, the reason why I was talking about the difficulty is because the next part's directives. Directives play a direct role in your loot and your targeted loot. This is huge. So Summit, it's different from Countdown, where in Countdown, you get loot no matter what, and it's instant. Like, you play one game of Countdown, you'll get 30, 40 items of loot. In Summit, it's not that common. So there's different ways of increasing your chances and your quality all at the same time, and it all goes to your targeted loot. So you could probably, if you focused on it hard enough, you could get better loot faster in the Summit than you could Countdown. Where Countdown, you're just getting a crap ton of loot, just nom 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 nom. But it's all like meh. It's all decent stuff. It's okay, but it's not all god rolled stuff. Where in Summit, if you really tried, I can show you how to hyper focus on this and get all god rolled items. So how you would do that, pretty simple. You'd go legendary for the highest loot possible, and then you'd add directives. Now, it says right here under directives, it says activating these directives will let you change how you play the game. You can have more than one active at the same time, and the recommended maximum is pretty much 5. Anything over that, the devs feel is a little bit of overkill, but you can get more. Now, it says here that activating those directives will give you more XP and increased targeted loot chance. So if you're really going for that assault rifle, you would want directives on with assault rifle as the targeted loot. That way you get a higher chance of getting those assault rifles to drop. So for example, if I wanted maxed out assault rifles, I would put on all the directives. Look at this. 188% increase. Woo! That's crazy. But again, that's with all the directives. So what did the developers say? They said 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're saying just do 5, and that would be a plus 125%. Not bad at all. Now it says that each directive slightly increases the chance for targeted loot to drop alongside normal loot. So like I was saying with the difficulty, normal and legendary, you would get the same loot, but it would be different quality. Where on legendary, it would be maxed out. Normal, it would be whatever, subpar. What the directives do is they add targeted loot items to those normal items. So now if you're on legendary, you get that high quality loot, but now it also gives you a chance of getting targeted loot with it. And then you're getting double the legendary drops, right? So you're doing it that way. Pretty cool. But the way of really maximizing your summit drops is going to be the challenges. This is huge. This is really important because each of these summit challenges give you more and more rewards, more and more targeted loot.
You can see at this bottom reward, it gives you 4 times the targeted loot items, 2 exotics, and XP. And all of this gets, what, times 5, because right now we're doing a times 5 XP event. So you could really capitalize on this right now. Where all of these caches and everything, they'll all give you targeted loot and things that you're looking for. And all you have to do is complete any of these challenges while playing Descent. So the way to really maximize our summit, the way to really maximize your summit experience is to increase your directives and increase your difficulty. I typically go heroic, and I'll do typically 5 or 6 directives, and then I'll do it like that. And then that way, whenever I do my targeted loot, whatever I'm going for, I know I'm getting more loot at higher quality. And that's how you would pretty much do that for Summit. Now, Summit is just PvE, and I do have a Summit video breaking down the whole thing floor by floor and explaining everything with that. And same with Countdown. So again, you can look these things up on my channel just by typing in, Summit 2025 or Countdown 2025 or Descent 2025.
Safe area detected.
Which kind of rolls me into Descent. So for targeted loot, those are your 2 places. Summit, Countdown. Countdown, you get loot instantly. Summit, you kind of got to work for it, but it could be better quality. Now, as far as Descent is a whole different animal. This is a roguelite game mode. It is a one and done game mode. So if you die, it's all over.
Combat
it's a simulation.
program active.
Now, this simulation has different talents that you can use while playing it. Have a lot of fun, customize your build, blah, blah, blah. Now, the big thing about Descent is it gives you access to the reconstructed cache, and it gives you access to this exotic rifle. It's the only way of getting this exotic rifle. Now, the reconstructed cache gives you those named item blueprints. So, like I was showing you in the crafting station, there are multiple named item blueprints in the game. There's over 100 actually. And what this does is it gives you access to more blueprints and in turn giving you access to more build combinations at your fingertips. Like you can just make whatever build you want. For example, the build that I showed you right here, I can craft this entire build because I have all of those blueprints. So I had the sacrifice chest piece. Here's the sacrifice blueprint right there. And so on and so forth. And then same with like the Hollow Man. Here's the Hollow Man. Same with the contractors. Here's the contractors. Crafting is a big deal for build making. It is a big deal. And Descent is the #1 way of getting those named item blueprints. I know a lot of people do not like Descent. I get it. But the grind is worth it. I promise you. It helps you for all future builds, and it gives you those blueprints forever. You never have to worry about it. Once you get them, bada bing, bada boom, you're done. You see what I mean? And that's why I have separate videos breaking down those 3 game modes, because there is a lot that goes into them, and it would take way too long to then, explain all of those again. So we went over farming. We went over the different game modes. Now, what do you want to play, right? What do you want to do? Well, there are only so many things you can do. First up is you have your open world. This is PvE only, all right? You have your open world activities. You have your open world checkpoints. Now, to change those difficulties, it's actually just like the Summit, where on the bottom of your screen, you can see where it says global setting. Right next to the closed map, it says global setting. If you click that, you can change your global difficulty, your global directives, and even reset your control points. Now, what this does is it scales all of the enemies on your open world map. So right here, you can see it says control point 4, and it has a 4 next to all of these control points. The level 4 means it's heroic. and it's the hardest that you can do your global difficulty. You can see right here. It goes normal, hard, challenging, heroic. Now, another thing is you can add global difficulties to your open world. And this plays the same role that it did in the summit, where you could put 5 of these on and have the same outcome, that plus 125%. But then obviously you have all of these directives you have to worry about, where like pistol, you can only use pistols, fragile armor. Once your armor breaks, it's broken. Fog of war, you don't know where the enemies are. Like all of these. But it does help because, again, the more directives you add, the more XP you get, but it also increases the chance of those targeted loot items to drop with your normal loot items. But I'll keep mine here on heroic with no directives because I'm not really farming right now for anything. But that would be your open world stuff, right? And then just remember these control points, if it's level 3 or higher, you can get those blueprints. And then once you get all of those blueprints, you never have to worry about that again either. So the open world is pretty fun. And if you use the priority objectives, like I showed you earlier from your seasonal menu, you could really like get some nice loot, exotics, XP, and all that really fast in the open world. Not only that, but here's a good tip and trick. Your public executions give you the most XP. So you can see right here, public execution. As a reward, it gives you 230k XP. If we go to a territory control, it doesn't give you anything near that. Here's a propaganda broadcast, 217. Let's see what else we have here. Territory control, 130. Ew. But if you go to the public executions, again, they're 230 each. And that's without directives. That's just here on heroic. But you can, that 230k, check this out. If you added the directives, and I'll just show you the effect right here and now, it does affect those XP bonuses, and you can check those out right now. So here's with the directives active. And now if I went to the public executions, let's see here. Public, here we go. Instead of 230, now it's 518. So now I get 518,000 just from taking over a public execution. And these only take a few seconds to complete. It's truly that simple. Very cool. And very easy. So if you're just now coming back into it, I would start with like maybe Fog of War, maybe 1 or 2 directives. That way you get a little bit of a bump, but it's not too hard. And then you can just, gradually increase that over time. All right, so that is the open world part. Now, if you're going to farm open world, go for the control points and the blueprints and go for the public executions for the extra XP. Next up is we have the missions, right? So we have missions and we have strongholds. So the missions can only go up to heroic, where the strongholds can go up to legendary. Now, the cool thing about that is sometimes if it is invaded, you can toggle it invaded on and off. You cannot toggle every mission on and off invaded. It's just not possible. It has to be first invaded, then you can toggle it back to normal, and then toggle it back to invaded. But that is only available to the missions that are invaded that week and the strongholds that are associated with it. So this week, the stronghold is capital. And then you can switch it on and off. See, just like that. Next up, we have our, let's see. So we did the game modes, we did the farming, we did the open world. I already talked about PvP. So now let's talk about the raids, right? So we have the Dark Hours raid. We have the Iron Horse raid. And then we have the Paradise Lost incursion. Now the thing about the raids is you cannot matchmake for these raids unless you are on discovery difficulty. And if you're on discovery difficulty, you cannot get the raid exotics. So the raid exotics, you have the Eagle Bearer, which is locked behind the Dark Hours raid. You have the the Ravenous, which is locked behind the Iron Horse raid. But then you also have the Regulus, which is also locked behind the raid Iron Horse. So with that, to matchmake for those raids, you can come up here to the helicopter pilot, right? And you can matchmake for the discovery raids. But again, you will not be able to get those exotics unless it's on normal. So for Xbox, PC, PlayStation, what you need to do is look for the looking for group. So right here, you can see the looking for group icon here on Xbox. And if you click on this, you can see right here, incursion DPS, control points level 4. I mean, Paradise Lost right here, bring striker, legendary summit floors. There's a lot of options you can have when it comes to matchmaking and getting raid teams or incursion teams. Now, the incursion exotic is called the Ouroboros, and that is this exotic SMG right here. Now, luckily, the incursion you can matchmake. Just go to the helicopter pilot again, and it is right here at Merit Estate, and then you can matchmake for it. But like you just saw in those looking for group posts, people are going to want you to have the builds in order to do those. So what I would do if I were you is focus on the earlier game modes. So Countdown, Summit, Descent. Do your open world farming for your blueprints. Get your builds together. Maybe do a little bit of Dark Zone if you want. And then once you have your exotics and your builds, then go for the raids and the incursion for those exclusive exotics. But that is pretty much it, everybody. That's your beginner's guide. So while you are farming, while you are getting all your builds together, just note that you only have 150 in your inventory and you have a stash that can hold up to 400. Now, the 400 part of the stash is only if you have the Warlords of New York expansion and you have the year 1 pass that includes these classified assignments. If you have both of those purchased, you will have a 400 stash, but if you do not have those purchased, you will only have a 300 stash. Now with that, your stash can be used amongst all of your characters, and you can put different builds on different characters and have fun that way. The last thing is scavenging points, and then we'll get out of here. So making new characters is the last thing we're going to talk about. You can make a new hardcore character if you want, or you can make a new normal character. Hardcore characters, if you make a hardcore character, if you die, you have to delete your character. Now you can toggle that every time you make a new character, but I'm just going to show you what these alternate characters look like. So here's my character number 2. This is my female character. Now this character has different builds and everything, different what have you, but we all share the same watch. So the scavenging points, once you have your watch fully maxed out at shade level 1000, all of your levels will then go to your scavenging points. So 1000 levels will max this out, and then everything after will go into here. The shade levels after 1000 don't really matter. The only thing that it really does after shade level 1000 is increase your health. So you can see right under my shade level, it says current health boost 60,000. That current health boost is only available because I reached shade level 2000. So from shade level 1000 to 2000, there's absolutely no difference except for your health. And then after shade level 2000 onwards,
There's absolutely no difference at all. So if you were shade level 2000 and I'm sitting here at shade level 12,000, we have the exact same numbers and the exact same health. So it doesn't really matter past 2000, just so everyone's well aware. Now, everything past that will give you scavenging points. These scavenging points can be used for different types of materials. It can be used for credits, all of these types of materials, and then optimization materials. The optimization materials will help you optimize your items to max if they're not already. And then these materials can help you craft stuff or what have you for anything in the game. What I typically do is I put a lot of my scavenging points into credits, and then I just dismantle all of my gear and mods because that will give me my materials. So I'm not wasting scavenging points for materials because I know I'm going to get materials just from dismantling gear. And then I put it all into E credits because you get 11,500 E credits per scavenging point. That's a lot. I mean, just right here, what am I at? 10 million? Let's see. Well, now I'm at 10.5 million. And now I'm at 11 million credits. That's simple. And then that way, if I have any other gear items, I can dismantle them. They can go into my materials. Good to go. Or I can buy items because I have 11,000 credits on this character. And then I can just dismantle them that way. There's a lot of advantages with having multiple characters because then you can hold, like, for example, this character has all my gear set items. And then I can just hold these for later. But I mean, you can see how this character is just full of gear set items for all my builds. And that's how I do all of my builds and get all my materials and all my credits. I make different characters. I stack the scavenging points. And then I go to the crafting bench lady. Her name's Anaya. And I share the materials. You can stack them on top of each other over and over and over. You're good to go. And that's how I made all my builds. That's how I crafted all my builds. And that's how I play the game. So I hope that this has helped you, learn something new about the game. And that's it for me. I am Kamikazevondoom. And I hope you enjoyed my beginner's guide. Hit the like and subscribe. You know the whole YouTube spiel. And I'll see you in the next one. And if you didn't know, this year I am trying to stream more on Twitch. So you can support me and follow me over there on Twitch. But again, I'm Kamikazevondoom. Take care of yourself. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll see you in the next one, Agent. Peace out.